Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. Thanks for coming here. I'm super excited about having this panel with us this afternoon. Okay, we have two fantastic entrepreneurs and one phenomenal investor. But before actually going to introduce the panel, I just want to have a bit of show of hands. I know that it's post-lunch time, so you need a bit of exercise. So please, show of hands, who are the entrepreneurs here? Entrepreneurs. OK, very good, very good. Who are the investors here? OK, get ready with your checks. And who are the corporates? OK, we have some people that will be paying for the party. That's very good. Excellent. I think we need mics on.
Now.
Excellent.
No, please, investors, come to the first row, please.
Yeah, that's right. It would be good. It would be good. Excellent. So listen, guys, I'm super excited to have with us Sergio Alvarez. Sergio Alvarez is co-founder and chief product officer of CartoDB. CartoDB is one of the coolest SaaS startups coming out of Spain recently, and they are now actually a US company. They have been actually invested by Accel partners. Then we have Luciana from Accel partners. Okay, she's from London, but Accel has invested so far in the last 2 years in 5 companies, and another investment from Accel. We have with us Agus, Gómez, CEO of Wallapop, one of the coolest B2C companies and more international companies coming out of Spain recently. Okay, so thanks a lot for coming here. It's a real pleasure to have you here. So what we will do tonight is that, and what we'll do this afternoon is have a few tips about how to scale a company, how to internationalize, and also how to look a bit at the US market. So first, let me start by how do you go about products? So thinking about launching a new product, how do you think about it? What are sort of the key steps that you want to take before launching? And actually, how do you think about sort of moving on to what it's called, a number of entrepreneurs will know about minimum viable product. That's something, that word that no one knows where it is, but they do know where it is. So how do you think about launching a product?
Well, I mean, as a B2B company and SaaS company, we can release very, very, very often. So now we are releasing like 10 to 12 times to production each day, which make us a lot of flexibility so we can release new products in a matter of a second, even before we announce them and we start selling them. So we normally start working with the actual product. We iterate over it, and we go and do a lot of work with the clients. So we talk to them. They help us to design the product because they have some needs and they know which pain they want to solve with our product. And after that, we normally do like feedback sessions, user testing, and we just release it. I mean, as soon as we can. It is buggy. It doesn't work perfectly, but it's enough to know.
And actually, today you're releasing a new product, correct?
Yeah. Today we are releasing like a new version at the platform level on CartoDB, which is called Deep Insights, and it's been announced now in the Mobile World Congress, in the Mobile World Capital booth.
Excellent. So, Agus, how do you go about thinking about your B2C products? I mean, how do you go about creating them and thinking about launching?
I think in a consumer point of view, no, and even for enterprise also, no, I think that MVP is a terrible word, no, that has made a lot of damage. Since it has got famous, no, and everybody's talking about lean methodologies and so on, no. And I think it's pretty dangerous just to confuse an MVP with a crap that you can develop fast. And it's something that internally in Wallapop sometimes.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa. Look at that.
Hello? Hello?
Okay. We turn up a bit the volume, and then that's going to be good. Perfect.
Hello? Now? No?
A bit more.
Now? Perfect.
Okay.
This is a minimal VL. So I think I was telling that minimal vial, the MVP is something that is dangerous, and there's a lot of misconfusion, I think, around the lean methodologies and so on. No? Especially at the very beginning when you have zero, no, you have nothing, you just have an idea and you want to launch it into the market. No, a lot of these methodologies push you just to, and to be proud about being very crappy, about getting embarrassed about your first release, no? And it's something that I totally disagree, no? Especially when you want to make a relevant test to the market, no? And launch your first version. So my great advice is that this version should be extremely well designed. So take a lot of care with usability and all that makes a great product in a minimal version engaging for the users, no? And the only thing I agree is that you don't have to get mad with the functionality, no? It only has to include the main core functionalities in order just to really test what the experience that you want to launch to the market, no? So minimal is not crap.
That's very good. And you guys, Luciana, you have invested in many companies.
Yep.
I mean, how do you see products? Because I'm sure that maybe most of them have failed at some point in time. Is that sort of a disaster?
It's not a disaster. Trial is natural, and I think testing is extremely important early on. And what I would say is that in my experience, when a product works, it really works, and you can tell from the first few hundreds of users or thousands of users, just based on engagement, repeats, you can see when people love a product. And then the question is that a biased sample, or are many users going to feel the same way?
Excellent. And then with regards to product, I mean, you all guys probably have thought about something that is called product roadmap, no? What must be a product roadmap? I mean, when you guys think about launching a product, do you think about sort of next 6, 12, 18 months for the same product? I mean, is that something that you usually do, or that's, I mean, not really sort of on your minds? And how do you think about sort of this thing of product roadmap and whether it's actually useful or not?
It would be amazing to say that we plan in that way, but it's not true. I'm being pretty honest here. It's like, that would be amazing, but that would be so boring at the same time. So I think part of the special thing that you have as a startup is that you can iterate very fast, and you can change things very fast, dramatically. So the best, I mean, and we startups by definition, even Wallapop, we are running with very low resources every single day. So it's true though that sometimes the best thing is that you release something and you test and you try new things, you iterate over it, and you change the roadmap continuously. So we actually have a roadmap of 9 months, but we only have like concrete tasks for the next month and a half in purpose. So we never plan more than 1 month and a half in terms of functionality. We plan on vision, and we plan on how you plan to go to market and which things you wanna do. But in functionality, we just do like 1 month and a half.
I fully agree with Sergio. I would say that the best startups that I've worked with have a very clear long-term vision, and I don't think that changes necessarily, but they react very quickly to what the market tells them, either the enterprise customers or the consumers. So I think it's important to stay tuned and iterate.
Yes, well, they have buy these micros on the Chinese store, close the... I totally agree with my colleagues, no? I think planning is something you always have to have a plan, no? But you never follow it. What it really works is just to have a long-term vision and a high-level point of view of the main projects that you want to face, and then act in a monthly basis. It's like Wallapop is working right now, no? Monthly basis, very small functionalities, and we have on mind the huge project that we want to face when it's possible. Because in the middle of this like theoretical and perfect roadmap, there's a lot of mess that is going on around, and you never can predict when you can do things.
What kind of sample sizes do you use when testing?
Sample, what do you mean, in time or in functionality?
No, I mean in the number of users.
Number of users. It depending on how critical is the functionality. No, if we are talking about an obvious improvement or an incremental improvement, we directly launch it to the market. No, but for example, when we are thinking about monetization or a critical restructuration of the application that we could have some hesitations about is going to be damage any of the key metrics, then we will launch not a sample, concrete sample, we launch geographically in order just to make a really relevant test to extract conclusions.
Excellent. So then, if we move on, because we have thought about product launch. So next step is the product is on the market, okay? How you go and put some real fuel to actually make that product grow, no? I mean, when people come to you with phenomenal forecasts, I mean, asking you for money about marketing, sales, and so forth, I mean, how do you look at that? I mean, is that something, I mean, do you always sort of, and this is for Luciana, do you always reduce or sort of the expectations? I mean, and also at the same time, I mean, how do you control to a certain extent whether sort of they are not, I mean, crazily overspending?
Right. So what I would say is that when things work, they tend to work better than initially thought when they really work. And it probably takes everyone a little bit by surprise, pleasantly. And when they don't work, they don't work. Okay. But this being said, obviously, you need to do your homework. You need to understand how the team plans on spending that capital. You need to understand the unit economics from everything from customer acquisition cost to lifetime value. You need to understand how the math works at the end of the day. And I think in terms of spending a lot, you know the teams you work with, and you know the teams before you back them, and the mentality. And sometimes, you know, there's a time to spend a lot, and there are times to just be as efficient as possible. And what I would also say is it also depends on what you're spending it for. If it's just to acquire customers or users, that's great, but perhaps the strategy is to build a brand, and then you do TV advertising, let's say, for a year, which can be very expensive, and where the returns are much more difficult to grasp, and they're much longer term. So it also really depends on the strategy that you're going for.
Excellent. And in your case, Sergio, when you're thinking about sort of, hey, now, actually, this is the time in which you are right now. You have just launched a product, okay, and you want to see sort of, I guess, a few more weeks, and then thinking about, hey, now I'm going to put salespeople, I'm going to put marketing people behind that. So how do you think about that, and how do you make sure, actually, that the whole organization is tuned for actually scaling that product?
I think that one of the things that we've learned and is working pretty good for us is to start selling before having the product ready. So it's something that you can...
Sorry, guys, it's very important. Can you say it again?
Yeah, it was a good thing. Start selling before having the product ready is something that, I mean, you should never underestimate the power of a sales rep talking to a very valuable client in terms of intelligence. So the conversations that your sales reps can have with the clients are, at the end of the day, is free information, right? If the sales rep is good, they are gathering requirements, and they are giving you like pretty valuable information. So the other thing with us is like being a B2B company, technology-based, and doing geospatial location intelligence, which is a very, very techy concept. Most of the times you have problems onboarding new sales reps on the team, which is one of the biggest challenges that we are facing now. So just to make a concrete example, what we have is an internal CartoDB Academy, which is each 15 days, the product team explains everything about a feature or everything about a particular product to the sales reps and the marketing team, so they can understand the value that we give to the clients, and they can, I don't know, create new marketing campaigns or provide some feedback. But this is actually happening before releasing the products. The best thing that can happen is that you start selling today, and then you release the product like 2 months later, because you have already validated your efforts and your investment. So we sell before having, I mean, This is a startup, right? We sell the dream every single day.
To us
Excellent.
as well.
Yeah, to you as well.
Excellent. So, and Agus, how do you go about sort of once you have that product on the market? So, I mean, thinking about actually what Luciana was saying. I mean, thinking about hey, TV, online. I mean, I guess that before actually probably checking on TV, you may need to do something else because TV certainly is very. I mean, it's very expensive. So how do you plan about that from a B2C standpoint? Obviously, you don't have sales reps going on the streets, so it's a different approach.
So I think here the interesting thing, no, and I thanks Luciana because Wallapop is one of the companies that spends more money in the world, I think. I think the key thing is in the first stage, no, because when you have a lot of traction, then it's very easy just to calibrate your marketing engine in order just to continue growing, and you have all the clues in order just to make it much more efficient, no? But the first stage when you don't have nothing is the toughest one because you are completely blind, no? And here we play the game in a way that we have evolved along the time in the company. That we really believe in relevant tests, no? We talk about short strategies, no? It's, for example, at the very beginning, my main advice is, for example, if you have some bugs for marketing, is not to dosify them, because otherwise you don't get relevant insights about your product, no? And you take the risk of dying like a zombie without never taking any conclusion. So my big advice, and is what we did at the very beginning, is spend all your money very concentrated, no? Create a huge relevant test, understand much better your funnel, and especially, for example, in our case, we fix all our attention on the cost per lister, cost per seller, was our key KPI, no? Understanding how efficient we were acquiring our listers, not the installations, not the installs. It was at the bottom of the funnel, cost per lister was a key metric for us. And as soon as we noticed that we were as efficient or more efficient than the industry where we're around, no? I always give that advice to, in order just to have an order of magnitude of how well are you doing at the very beginning, it's very important that you analyze the cost of the industry that you are coming in, no? And cost per lister, and then definitely, for me, the key and most important thing of a startup that is really getting traction, not artificially, is retention. The typical cohorts, no, that VCs love to see, no, with these red colors that are going, yeah. It means that when you acquire users, they stay with you for a long time, no? And in this initial stage, no, total numbers are your main enemy, no? Total installs, total registers, total whatever, it's only indicating, well, the size of your penis, but anything else, no? Because if there's not a conversion rate...
In another way, it's called vanity metrics.
Vanity metrics or size of your penis is
That's
a word
right,
that I...
that's right.
Sorry, but because being so rude.
That's very good.
So first stage is the critical one, no? Advice, not dosifying the investment.
Excellent. And in your case, just, I mean, so what I guess a number of people are wondering is, I mean, you guys probably were the first ones that went into TV like really, really massively, no? I mean, was it difficult to take that, to make that decision? I mean, would you sort of think that this is a recipe for most of the B2C companies?
Not really. TV works amazingly well if your target is completely mainstream. If you are focusing, if your target is a niche target, it's not gonna perform, it's gonna be performed extremely bad. So there are two things for using TV that works very well. You don't have geographical limitations. For example, you don't have to build, I don't know, a team on the ground in every city, like, for example, transportation companies. If you take a look in offline marketing, there's a lot of transportation marketing that they are advertising in bus stations, billboards, and so on, and it's a technique that works really well because you need to create density, local density. In the case of Wallapop, well, we don't have geographical limitations. A product can come wherever, no? And our users, the demography of our users goes from 15-year-old to 60-year-old. So when you have this kind of environment,
TV is the perfect bazooka. It's, well, we call it the bazooka strategy, no? It's like TV drives all the strategy, and then it dramatically improves the efficiency of all the rest of the costs, no? Digital, press, and so on.
Excellent. From a B2B standpoint, and I wanted to link sort of the area of sales and marketing plus sort of building out the organization. How about sort of building the sales team? Have you, before actually having to build a sales team, did you think that, what was your thought, and have you been surprised by maybe the difficulty or easiness of building sort of a solid sales team?
Yeah, absolutely. My co-founder and myself, we are technical, both of us. So and engineers, we tend to underestimate the difficulty of things that are not technology related, right? People is the hardest thing that you will challenge ever in a company. So for us, what happened was that at the beginning, the co-founder can sell almost anything to anybody. It is very easy to go and sell. If your product is good and you are one of the founders, just by the passion that you have and the vision that you are selling, you do like real-time consultancy with the client and you solve their problems. And it works, it's true. You can close a deal in a single meeting, but that doesn't scale. So what you need is somebody that does the same thing. And the first realization that you do is that there is no anybody else in the world because you are the co-founder of the company, right? So what you need to build is a set of frameworks and tools and processes that help these people to onboard in your company and to go to a client and explain the value proposition in the same way you will do and illustrate with real use cases, give real numbers, and so on. So CartoDB has an extra challenge, which is that we are pretty horizontal. At the end of the day, we are an ecosystem. We call it an ecosystem. We have more than 100 partners around the world selling solutions and selling integrations with our technology. We have a product, which is a SaaS product. You can go to the website, sign up, and you get it working with a couple of clicks. And also we have like a set of more complex integrations with very big partnerships, like with Twitter. We have a partnership with Twitter for importing Twitter data, and with other companies now. So the thing is that you need to really create a very big infrastructure in order to onboard all these salespeople. And it's the CartoDB Academy that I was mentioning, but it's also something very simple like templates for Keynote, which is you really need to build those materials and to invest a lot of time on helping sales reps on understanding your product and going for a client and kill it in a meeting.
Because actually most of your sales reps are not technical.
Well, they are.
Or a number of them.
They're quite technical, but they are sales reps. It depends with who you compare them. Yeah. But yeah, this is the idea of the product academy. Is no way you can sell technology without understanding technology, and I don't believe they should start coding, but they should understand the power of the technology that we are creating and how it can be used for a wide set of use cases. So yeah, we spend a lot of time and a lot of resources helping them on ramping up the knowledge on that.
What I would add is that, as we were discussing earlier, actually, on the enterprise side, it's a little bit more predictable, right? You don't have to question, am I going to be able to monetize these customers? You know exactly how much they're going to pay you. You know your gross margin. You can calculate your metrics very easily. And then it's very clear what kind of customer acquisition cost makes sense, how much to invest in sales and marketing.
You have a pipeline.
You have a pipeline. You know when to accelerate a bit more easily, let's say. It's just a little bit more straightforward. But I fully agree with your point about building a sales machine. This is probably one of the most important things in enterprise software. And the best enterprise software companies we have in our portfolio are incredibly structured about this, as you were saying. So I work with a company that now has about 60 salespeople, and they add around 10 salespeople a month, which is quite a lot. So they have a 1 month, they also call it academy, when they're only training salespeople. But salespeople get trained by the CEO, by everyone in the company. It's a very important process. They have a sales Bible that everyone lives and breathes. So I can't emphasize enough how key this is to the success of an enterprise software company.
Exactly, and at the end of the day, the one that is reflecting your culture and your principles and your vision is the sales rep. So you need to train them very, very well. And again, that has been like the hardest thing that we have challenged during the last months. It has not been about technology, it has not been about go-to-market, it has not been about market fit. It is about how you scale the sales team on a way that you can actually capitalize on your deals and expand your pipeline and then close the deals when you expect to close them and make a shorter sales process and these kind of things. So yeah, it's really hard. It's really hard.
And in your case, Luciana, because I mean, what happens usually with investors is that when before they come into a company, well, sales and marketing spending is X. After they come into a company and they start investing, it's 2X, 3X, 4X, 5X, no? So then, how do you make sense of that? How do you maybe control that and say to the entrepreneurs, listen, I mean, is it going the right way? Is it not going the right way? How do you help them also understanding whether they are just completely full, or on the other hand, whether they are just not spending enough, so losing opportunities?
Absolutely. Again, I think it goes back to unit economics, and the unit economics show you exactly whether you can accelerate your spending or whether you shouldn't accelerate your spending. Okay. This being said, we do spend quite a bit of time with our portfolio companies on sales, and I guess Sergio can talk about that, and I hope he agrees with me. But on the enterprise side, it's one of the key areas of discussions at every board meeting and in most interactions with the CEO, because it's really the engine of the company, if you think about it that way.
Just for the audience, when you think about unit economics,
yes.
What do you think about B2C unit economics, B2B unit economics?
Well, it's the same idea at the end of the day. It's how much am I spending to get how much back? And typically you want to look at the gross margin for enterprise, because looking at revenue can be a bit misleading. With consumer, you don't really have that. So it's customer acquisition cost versus customer lifetime value. What are you getting back for the money you invest either in marketing or in sales?
And you also look at how soon you're getting that money back, probably.
Of course. So if it takes 1 year, a year and a half, that's great. If it takes 3 years, we already have some questions there.
But now with Wallapop, we actually have a challenge, which is the unit economics. There's a part that is missing, which is not a non-important part, which is the revenue part. So
right.
So then, how do you actually think about people which actually, from here in the audience, they may be thinking about launching products that maybe for the next 12, 18, 24 months, they will not have revenue?
Well, as you know, in Spain, talking about money is very impolite, no? And making money is totally impolite, no? No, I'm kidding, no? At the end, something that sometimes happens in consumers, no? When you have a great market fit, and you see that as soon as you fuel the machine, you grow dramatically, no? And you are at the point of getting market leadership, no? And in our case, the model that we have launched is a disruptive model, no? That is damaging a lot the all classified industry, and the technological barriers are so low that in 1 month many other companies can go to the market with the same product. Then you have to take a tough decision, no? It's like, okay, I build a solid and stable business with, for example, the market leadership that we have in Spain right now, or we continue our expansion in order just to take the most benefit of the market opportunity and the time of window opportunity that we have, no? And in our case, we decided obviously just to take the most and launch Wallapop in the most valuable markets in the world, no? And we have been totally aligned with our board, and high-level investors really understand that way of behaving.
I would say that perhaps it sounds scary if you haven't seen the playbook before. And we at Accel are lucky enough to have seen this playbook before. You want to acquire customers, build a brand, and be dominant, and be the place where people go to buy and sell things. And when that happens, I have seen the switching on the monetization to very impressive levels and actually relatively quickly. So it's not, a dream, let's say. This is the typical classifieds playbook. It's very much how you scale with this model.
So then maybe in the case of Wallapop.
Maybe something interesting, no? Because in the last times, there's a lot of press about bubbles and unicorns and so that, no? But for example, in the case of some companies, no, I think we have to be fair and understand that, for example, companies like Wallapop that belongs to the classified landscape, no, the monetization playbook is completely validated for an whole industry, no? And
Absolutely.
then there's a matter of decision of a strategy starting just to squeezing the monetization wheel or not. No?
So then, I mean,
Absolutely.
in the case of a non-revenue company, could we say that, and also for the audience that are thinking about sort of launching companies that stay for some time without revenue, is retention, what you were saying before, for you as an investor, actually one of the key factors?
It's key, absolutely. Two questions. How often do people come back? So the retention, and when they come back, how engaged are they? How much do they transact? How much do they browse, and so on and so forth?
Excellent, great. So what we want to do as well is to understand a bit more about, I mean, moving from a 10 people company to a hundreds of people company, okay? I mean, how do you think about what are the different layers that you need to put into the company, different departments? I mean, you had your co-founder. I mean, what were sort of the key points that you had been going? And at the same time, I mean, once you are sort of scaling really fast, what are the key areas that you feel that sort of are important to take a look at?
Yeah, this is one of the toughest stuff about a startup, no scale, no? Then, well, I have the magical solution, no? The most important thing is to take a lot of attention in a KPI, which is number of toilets per employee, in order just to avoid traffic jams at midday. This is something that can completely collapse your company, no? No, but I think, as Sergio was commenting before, no, I think the easiest stuff about the scaling is system, processes, the organization chart, and these kind of rational things that you can work on, no? In our case, no, when you grow so fast, I think the key pain points are, one, the culture, no, that it's a big word at the very beginning, but it gets more and more important as soon as you cannot share a beer with all the team in a bar, no? Because then from that point on, you cannot connect individually with and transmit this passion or this point of view, this think big, this being humble and this kind of stuff, no? Culture is critical and you have to work a lot. And the second pain point, and I think is the tougher one, is communication. As soon as you get bigger, no, it's very difficult and there's a lot of misunderstanding between the goals and which are the objectives, and the territories, departments still start thinking about themselves and about their own goals, no? And here is I think it's a critical point to manage, just to be completely clear, simplify communication, transmit in a very simple manner which are the goals, 2-3 goals of the company, and make an intensive job in making everyone understand in a very simple manner what we are doing, no? And what is the part that he represents of this total, no?
I completely agree with everything. I just to elaborate a little bit more, we decided to make a culture owner in the company, which is right now is myself in Spain, is the chief science officer in New York, which is basically you dedicate some time to think how to keep your culture, because it's very, very important. So, for example, one of the latest decisions that we took is that we don't hire anybody that we wouldn't like to have a beer with him. So that's the last interview. It's like, if I cannot have fun with this guy talking about random things, it's somebody that I would not like to have in my team. So that is one thing, is hiring. It is very critical because if you start hiring like without paying so much attention to the hiring process, you could hire people that eventually is destroying your culture and is behaving in the opposite way that you will expect them to behave. So the second one is communication. And it's also, just to add a small detail, is that people feel pretty bad when they used to know everything that is happening in the company. And then 1 week after, a lot of things are happening, but they are not involved on them. They feel jealous. It's like, oh my God, I mean, I used to be the one doing that, and now there is another guy doing that.
And when they tell you, you feel guilty, no?
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
oh
It's like, oh, it's true.
I'm a bastard, I'm not communicating.
And fixing that, I mean, takes a lot of time. And actually, it's the best feeling you can have in your startup. Is, my personal point is when you enter to the office and you realize that a lot of things have been happening and you are not involved on them, and they got right, it's like, oh, this is amazing. This is starting
so while you're sleeping, people are working.
No, not in that way. Not in that way. But it's, I mean, we are launching a new product now, and I'm not there. And the team is in Madrid, and they are not involved as well, or in New York, they are sleeping. I mean, it's amazing when you manage to remove that friction, and it creates a lot of friction. Communication is key. We do, for example, town hall meetings on Fridays. It's 15 days. The CEO is the only moment where the CEO reports to the whole company, and it's the only moment when the CEO feels like reporting. And it's about reporting. It's how well or bad we are doing, and which are the things that are happening. We introduce new people. We introduce new products, new ideas, changes on the meetings, and so on. The other one for fixing communication is about transparency. So in CartoDB, we have a shared dashboard with the cash that we have on the bank, which is public within the organization. So any employee can know how much money do we have in the bank. And that is very important because when you raise 23 million, people think that you have a lot of money. And when you show them the run rate, it's like, okay, we needed that money. So transparency is very important for helping on communications. And the other thing that we are facing now is like, when you grow so fast, you tend to work for yourself too much. And that means like, we used to have one single meeting room. Now we have 6 in the new office. And during the 2 first weeks, 6 meeting rooms were completely busy every single minute on the day. It was like, this is crazy, guys. We are doing something very bad. So for example, what we did was we bought like 2 whiteboards, but you can take them and move. And we forced the technical team to have the technical meetings in the middle of the office. So if you need something, you don't organize a meeting. You just raise your hand, ask your colleagues to come, just play in the middle of the office, 10 minutes, and then you go back and work on other stuff. So that is very, very important. It's like you don't lose your magic, which is you are agile and you.
And their alcohol plays a very important role.
Exactly. In
I have some people from Wallapop here, no? And something that really works pretty well to us is not to planificate the typical offsite, no? One day, one fixed day, all the company goes out. We like to do it randomly. Suddenly one day, we say, okay, everybody stop working and let's have fun, no? And this kind of randomness is also pushing the craziness that we encourage in our employees.
So guys, this is very good. If you work for CartoDB, you know whether you will get salary next month or not, because you can control the cash. If you work for Wallapop, maybe you will be surprised about an offsite tomorrow. That's very good. Perfect.
Yeah, we took care
you
of
are
the
not
salary
invited,
thing.
eh? So
No?
don't get so happy.
Sorry. Okay, excellent. And could you just give me sort of a couple of tips of things that have worked for, or more than tips, a couple of advisors of things that have worked for you on hiring? I mean, it's on hiring your people. I mean, things that.
So one of the worst things being, having a team in Spain right now is that the middle management roles are not so popular in Spain. There is just a few people that have go through all the way through taking a startup to an IPO and then knowing all the process, which is the kind of people that we will need now for our management roles. So that is quite a challenge here. It's starting to change, but hiring those guys is very hard because you tend to hire somebody that is no longer working on the field. So then what you hire is a captain, but he doesn't know how to execute the strategy because he forgot about it. He thinks that it's not part of his job yet. So most of the times, the most successful things with us has been to hire people that is senior, that they know how to fix things, but not the guy that has go all the way through this thing, right? It's like just a guy that is doing like in a bigger way right now, and you offer them the opportunity of doing like in a more ambitious way, but from a little bit before the actual situation they are now, so they can still execute things.
Excellent.
That is one thing. The second one is the beer at the end of the interviews. That is key. I mean, don't hire boring people. That is key. I mean, you need to have fun while working as well as
From
doing
an investor
offsites and so on.
perspective, Luciana, I mean, I know that you help companies with their boards and so forth. I mean, how do you think about that?
So this is one of the key areas where we help indeed, whether it is bringing independent board members or key people at the management level, obviously if needed. That's an area where we spend a lot of time. You know, all my colleagues interview all the key candidates and we're quite involved. But what I wanted to emphasize is, well, first of all, I think both companies here are quite lucky because I'm sure that it's not that challenging for them to attract talent. So that's great. But also, I really like it when companies get original when it comes to hiring. So I work with a company called Deliveroo. It's a food delivery platform. They actually launched in Barcelona and Spain as well, so some people might be familiar with them. And they have thousands of drivers that they work with. And at some point in London, we were thinking, wow, like, where are we going to get more drivers? So we started working with students, actually, which I think is great, and it's a win-win situation. Students have, make pocket money or whatever, money for their expenses, and they're great. Yeah. So I think thinking out of the box is also important.
Excellent. Sorry, Agus, you were going to say.
Well, in my case, no, I want to remark a typical dilemma, no, about hiring senior people, betting for junior people. So at the end, no, after several stages, no, my conclusion, and I continue betting on that, is like, so it's the same that the first time that you get in love is really intense, no? So your nipples, everything is, you are happy, you see the sky. And this is something that you cannot repeat anymore, no? For example, if I think about myself, if I had to start Wallapop from the scratch, I would say, no way. So, no way, no.
Me neither.
To be unconscious, I think to be unconscious is something that it's pretty powerful. So I think the key thing about hiring, no, is obviously you need balance between seniority and young people, no. But for me, the key is being able to determine if a person is going to be capable of following the path of the company and growing personally as the company continue growing. Because if you make that fit, then you have the perfect machine. You have the hunger test, you have the passion. When you are unconscious about, wow, launching United States, no, it's like magical. If you do it for the very first time, no, your chest is gonna explode about the excitement, no, you cannot sleep, and you cry, and wow. And wow, you go naked, you go to the corner, you touch yourself. It's amazing, no? So, and this power that have passion is not replaceable with expertise.
Excellent. Actually, picking up on the US theme that you mentioned, I mean, how do you guys think about internationalization? I mean, if we start with CartoDB, actually also thinking out sort of the US specifically, I mean, how has been, if you can tell us a bit more about internationalization, US, how has it played out for you? When was the decision to launch there?
So CartoDB, even being incorporated in Spain in the origins, we have always been an international company. So we were an American company for Americans, and we were a UK company for UK. I mean, we are in the perfect moment and in the perfect place to create international businesses. So it's very cheap. I mean, it has never been so cheap to open a new office in New York than sending a MacBook to a developer, and then you have the office. So now we incorporated the company in the United States, but from the very beginning, we didn't have our website in Spanish. I mean, not at all. We didn't publish anything in Spanish, not because we don't feel proud about Spain. It's the other way around. Why I shouldn't play the biggest corporations in the world. So CartoDB has been international from the beginning. we had a hard time hiring people here in Spain because they thought we were Americans at the beginning. So they were like, oh, this American company, these two Spaniards working for an American company. No, we are.
No, but your pronunciation is very Mexican, no?
Yeah, of course. It depends on the day. It's because of the tequila that I had yesterday. So the thing is that I think that in the internet, it doesn't make any sense to create a company that is focusing on a single country. You can start focusing on a country because you want to conquer it, but then, I mean, why you shouldn't do it in English from the beginning? Maybe not in the case on a B2C market like Wallapop, but for us, it made a lot of sense. Our biggest clients are on the United States. Like 65% of our revenue comes from there, and we have the headquarters there. We had a very interesting conversation with partners in United States. So it was like the common thing to do.
Excellent. And in your case, Agus?
Well, in a consumer point of view, I totally agree. In the enterprise world, English is the common language, and you don't have to bother about locality. In a consumer point of view, locality is important. Now, for example, my mother is a user of Wallapop, and the only word that she can tell in English is Nike or Nike, how she pronounces it. So it's really important. In our case, thinking about internationalization, it was a long journey. So first of all, we launched it here in Spain, and very successfully. And the final goal always has been launching in United States. But for a consumer company, it's very important when you think about United States, just to be really conscious that you have to have the resources in order just to fight against your competitor and sustain this fight for a long term. And this is something that you have to evaluate very carefully, And also you have to have the security that your product is world class, And in many consumer companies, the first country that you conquer is your mother country, as we did it here in Spain. But as soon as we noticed that there was a huge traction, our strategy was very clear. We immediately launched UK and France, and that put Wallapop on the world map, and attract the attention of Luciana. Luciana say, "Wow, this is not Spanish anymore." So this seems just to be international, And attracting this attention, from in the first stage in the UK, through Accel partners was critical and game-changing for us, because as soon as Accel supported the company, well, many doors in United States get open for Wallapop, So we launched it very heavily, in United States with a strategy that it's very funny when I was explaining it in the board. The shot strategy.
The shot strategy.
It was an expensive shot, that insisting again on relevant tests, And well, once again, it's.
But for the US, you probably had to make sure before that you had significant wallets, no? I mean, that you actually had significant amount of money that you could put into the market, no? Because I guess that it's pretty expensive to launch there.
Definitely, you have to calibrate extremely well how much money do you need just to face that challenge. Otherwise, you're gonna throw tons of money to the trash. And this is something that we waited, we analyzed, and after we see that there was traction, then it was not that tough. I was going to say no. The last time I raised money, I get Asiatica for United States. But then you can continue the competition properly. So first of all, calibrating how much do you have to burn against your competitors and sustain the war, and be sure that your product is world class and will fit.
You can clearly tell the mindset here, sustain the war.
Absolutely.
That's great. From Accel's perspective, I should start by saying that we are a global platform. We have our roots over in the United States, have been investing in Europe for 15 years, are active in India and Asia as well. So we like entrepreneurs who think big. Now, this being said, I think it's also important to understand whether the United States is the best market for you as a company. And for some companies it is, and for others the answer might be, hey, maybe I want to be a pan-European company, or maybe Asia is the best market to start with. And in fact, some of our best performing companies are not active in the US or launched the US very late on, like BlaBlaCar, for example, or Deliveroo, which I mentioned before. They're throughout Europe and Asia, but for various reasons decided that right now the US is not on the roadmap. And that's also okay.
Okay, but for
No, and
instance,
something really important, really important. When you go to fundraise in United States, it's very important, if you have my accent, to remark that you are looking for millions of pesos. It's dollars.
that's really good. Do
I
not
was
confuse
supposed
them.
to be the Mexican guy here.
But for instance, Luciana, when you're looking at companies, I guess that the fact that they are already maybe in 2 countries, when you're looking at
That's
them,
great. That's great.
It's a significant plus, no?
Of course, it already answers the question whether this is a one-country market fit and a one-country proposition, or if it can easily roll out internationally. And that's, when you're in Europe, if you launch in the United States, you have a large market, same language, similar culture. It's much easier to scale. In Europe, you have to scale country by country. So if you already have a couple of those examples that work, yes, that's fantastic, needless to say.
But I want to remark something about United States, no, because there's the myth, no, that Europe is country by country with a lot of cultural difference and so on, but it's the same in United States. At the end, it's it's minor friction, no, but at the end, it's a whole continent, plenty of states, no, and if you want to attack United States, it's quite tough because you have to treat it as a whole, but also then with particularities in every state and every city, no? And it's something that it has been really tough for us just to strategize.
Just to keep going on that point, I mean, one of the outputs that we got from our latest board meetings were like, United States is so big that location is very important in terms of sales reps, for example. So you need, in Spain, you need a head of sales, as much as I can imagine. We have a head of sales on EMEA, but in the United States, you need a head of sales for the West Coast, a head of sales for the East Coast, and then you need people like in Washington, for example, if this is, because just a single state is representative enough in terms of value that you need to have some people there, at least on the B2B market.
Excellent.
This is very relevant.
Guys, we have time probably for one question. Who wants to do that? Any question? Okay, here, probably the front row, the gentleman with the...
Good afternoon. Thank you, guys. Very interesting conversation. Agustin, I've been following your company for quite a long time. When did you knew this was exploding? When?
The first day we launched to the App Store, the first day that we launched Wallapop, it was pretty clear to me. So it's true that you have to wait to retention and cohorts, but you have I had an incredibly gut instinct that was an explosion. So it overtook any of our expectation, no, and the following weeks, everything continued confirming that we have something magical on our hands.
Excellent. We have time for a second question, actually.
Hello, congrats. I'm just curious how it's working in South America and Central America and Asia for both of you. If you are doing that, of course.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, we have a few clients there. We don't have any sales rep or any office. We have pretty good clients in Mexico, for example. The accent thing, it works pretty good. It's working okay, but on the B2B market, maybe the United States is more active. I know that for some companies on the B2C side, LATAM is becoming very relevant. For us, is another market, is like any other place in the world, nothing special about it.
Unfortunately, we don't have presence in LATAM and South America, but it's in our roadmap. I cannot tell you much.
Actually, it's very interesting because what some people from outside Spain say when they look at the Spanish companies is, oh, internationalization is always about Mexico, maybe but not Brazil, but Argentina and so forth. So Did you think about actually doing sort of the typical Spanish internationalization, about going South America? Or obviously you did not do it, but why was that the case?
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
We thought, let's go for the most valuable markets in the world.
Excellent.
Yes.
Shot the strategy, right?
Short the strategy.
Excellent. We have time for one last question. The mic is running quickly.
When you talk about unit economics, the marketing costs in different countries are different, right? And so is the size of the pocket. So especially if you're in a SaaS business, how would you price the product? Would you price higher in the US and lower in Spain? Because if you had to work on the unit economics that way.
No, not at all. I mean, we treat every single client in the same way. It doesn't matter where they come from or I mean, even by industry, we charge the same, actually. So we know that some industries are bigger in terms of revenue, but we charge the same. It's the same pricing.
Excellent, guys. So listen, thanks a lot for coming this afternoon. I think that our panel deserves a huge round of applause, and thanks for coming.